Okay, this is the All-State Junior Timpani Etude Garwood Whaley, page 55. I'm going to set my metronome to 104. Let's go through the etude a little bit and talk about what's going on here. So our tuning, we have G and D, so a nice open fifth. If you want to use a song that you know to help you with the pitches, it's the first two pitches of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. The most challenging part of this etude is that the crescendos and decrescendos are indicated over a long period of time, usually around 10 measures. So you really have to pace your dynamic changes as you go through the piece. As a result, what I've done is I've actually gone through, so for instance, right at the beginning we have piano with crescendo poco a poco. So, and that crescendo is all the way up to the fortissimo on the fourth line. So over the course of the first three lines, I've written in some way markers. I've written in a mezzo piano in the last measure of the first line, mezzo forte in the last measure of the second line, and then forte in the third line on the third measure, so that I know that, so that I've broken up that long crescendo into a couple of manageable chunks. And then I've done that for the next decrescendo and then the crescendo that goes to the end of the piece as well. A couple of technique things. Right off the bat, the first thing we have in this etude is a 3-stroke rough. On timpani, you never ever play this as a doubled sticking like you would on snare drum, like for instance if you were going left, right. We don't do that on timpani. Drags are always singled, so I'm just going right, left, right, pretty much for all of them. On the high drum. With a tiny bit of crescendo over those three notes, so it's not da-da-da, it's da-da-da, da-da-da, right? So it's an ornament, so you're leading up to the primary note, just like a flam, it just has one more note in it. Along that point, in a couple of spots in the piece, second line, 5 lines from the end, and in a couple other spots, we also have flams. On timpani, you want to play the flams more wide open, so it's not like a snare drum flam, where it's real tight. You want it to be more open so that you can hear both pitches. And as I'm looking through, they are all from the low drum to the high drum. So you want the high drum to be just a little bit louder, and then a little bit wider than a normal flam so that we hear both pitches. So instead of this, which I'm doing like on a snare drum, you get so that you hear both pitches. So the the lower drum, the left hand's gonna come just a little bit sooner. All right, so I'm just gonna go up through the first 3 lines, the first long crescendo here. I'll check my metronome again. So this will be the first big crescendo. Right, so now I'm at mezzo piano. Make a difference between the sound of those double stops and then the flam that follows them. in line 4. Nice and big. Draw the sound out of the drums. Don't pound the sound into the drums. Pull it out. Right? Digga-da. Play up into your headspace. So then we have a long decrescendo. So 3 measures at fortissimo going down to forte. Forte right there. And again, these are just my way markers. You could do them in some different spots if you feel the phrasing a little bit differently. Also notice, especially on the longer rolls, that I'm not rolling in the same spot on the head. I've actually spread out one lug. So if you're playing in the middle of the lugs here, I've spread out to the next 2 lugs so that the drum gets a little bit wider and richer sound. We don't want all the attacky sound that you get from playing in one spot at a high volume. If we spread out a little bit, we can get that same volume but a little bit more open sound, right? So you'll see me doing that. Here again from the fortissimo. 3, 4. Measure here, make sure that beat 1 is not a triplet. It's not 1 a triplet 3. It's 1 a triplet 3. Instead of don't swing beat 1 of that measure from right from the line. Taking these 4/8 notes to crescendo, make sure I get all the way down to mezzo piano. Here you have an option. You can articulate the downbeat of beat 4 out of that roll, or you can play it sort of less articulated and emphasize the E and A at that bar. So I'll just play that measure there. So either one is fine. It doesn't give a clear indication either way. Just make sure that you are convincing in the interpretation that you choose, right? So right there from the line. Decrescendoing those flams down to piano, and again, wide flams. You want to hear both pitches, but don't lose them. Now as we go back down to piano, nice staccato strokes so that we get the articulation of the rhythm through the resonance of the pitches. Notice that I'm using a short stroke, but it's sort of a very staccato and articulate stroke. So those 4 bars are all at piano. Now we start the crescendo. Mezzo piano. Mezzo forte. Forte. Fortissimo. Roughly on beat 2. I'm not doing any other muting in the piece. The piece doesn't seem to demand it in any spots. There's a couple spots where you could put it in, like at this piano. Right, some spots like that you could put in muting, but I don't want to distract from the flow of the phrasing with the sound of me putting my hands down and such things. So I'm only muting at the end. Make sure that you wait, that you push in enough that the drums actually stop. Right, you can probably hear this drum still ringing. You don't want that. Right, you actually want to stop the sound. Doesn't have to be right in time on beat 2, but you want beat 1 quarter note to be full value and indicate that it's the end of the piece. All right, so I'll go ahead and set the metronome again and go back through the whole thing one more time.